couple that actually time for them not gone for the 3, which is interesting. They've gone 4, 2 and 5. They've gone for number 2, Tim Parney, having his first run for Rafe Beckett and his first run at a handicap. Used to be with John Gosden. You must know his horse well, Jeff. Tim Parney.
Yeah, he did win a John for one at Newmarket last season, last back end over 1400. So, that for a high clear team. But she's a filly by Ravens Pass. So most of Ravens Pass progeny enjoy the fast ground. She's no exception. And obviously going up in trip from 1400 winning at Novice last season to 2000 metres, but Ravens Pass won a Breeders' Cup Classic, didn't it? So and the stamina on the damn side, so I don't think the trip will be a problem for Tim Parney.
OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. Happy to be here Saturday, July 7th. Last weekend we were up at Woodbine. I said it yesterday. Yesterday was my first day back since Woodbine, but for folks who don't get a chance to tune in on weekdays, I will reiterate, we really enjoyed our time up at Woodbine. Appreciate their sponsorship of the programming here on the network. Of course, Woodbine, pick, bet, and cheer on great racing north of the border, and it was great racing last Saturday and Sunday when we were up there. Friday, we bounced around the backstretch and picked up some interviews, caught Graham Motion a little later, schooling some horses in the paddock. Graham's Lady Alexandra looked great, just getting nipped in that turf sprint. We talked to Roger Atfield. His horse, Tizis Lamb, won the Dominion Day. Caught Mark Cassidy as he was watching some horses train out by the training track and really went over a number of his horses, including Wonder Gadot, the winner of the Queen's Plate, and Catherine Day Phillips and Chantel Sutherland, a number of the other trainers and personalities up there at Woodbine. And so we always hope you appreciate our road trips, and let us know if you do like the road trips. Write to viewer mail at capitalotb.com or shout us out on Twitter or the Facebook page. As I say, I always like some feedback if you appreciate those road trips and the interviews we bring, talking about some of the participants on these big weekends we go to. And again, thanks to the folks up at Woodbine for their hospitality. They always treat us very, very well up there. Let's give you some of the promos coming up next Thursday. Speaking of road trips, we'll be up the Turnpike at Saratoga Harness. We were there a couple of weeks ago, enjoyed our visit, but we'll be back again on Thursday, July 12th, trackside at Saratoga Harness. Not only that, we'll have another $100 bankroll. Go to the website to find out how you can get your chance to participate in that harness bankroll, capitalotb.com. Again, looking forward to our trip up to the harness track on Thursday. Saturday, a week from today, brings back the Road to Vegas contest, so keep that in mind. You have to get signed up for your chance to participate in next Saturday's contest and hopefully get on your way to Vegas, because we will be sending someone out there at the end of this process. So this month's Road to Vegas contest coming up a week from today, next Saturday. Learn more at capitalotb.com. The two big meets coming up, what are we looking, about a week and a half out, as it were. July 18th, Del Mar will have its opening day, and 2 weeks from yesterday, opening day at Saratoga. But 1 week from yesterday, next Friday, we'll kick off the live programming from the backstretch. It's always a lot of fun, and that I know people like, because I get a lot of great feedback. I mean, we have all the big personalities in horse racing, as Saratoga during the summer really is kind of the crossroads of the horse racing world. And I mean, you go back 4 or 5 years, I've talked to Alan Jerkins and Jonathan Shepard, and of course Todd and Chad. Mark had Bob Baffert and Mike Smith on his show, and those are just the kind of folks that you'll have the opportunity to see. The trainers, the jockeys, the people behind the scenes, the administrators in the game, and it's going to wind up to be just that way again this season as well. And as I say, we kick off with the programming from the backstretch next Friday, July 13th. I don't know, if kicking off on Friday the 13th, is that a bad sign? I'm looking at it as good luck. I'm going good luck kicking off next Friday. But again, mark that on your calendar as well, as it will be a fun day up there at Saratoga, kicking things off for the 2018 season. We're starting a week early, get the kinks out and whatnot, but we will be there starting next week, so it should be a lot of fun. All right, coming up on today's show, nice racing across the country. There's a big day at Belmont with $2 million, one of them $1 million plus, but $2 million races, the Belmont Oaks and the Belmont Derby. Going to have Andy Serling in a little while to talk a little bit about that. Towards the end of the program, Chris Sobocinski from Delaware Park will join us. He's going to talk about Delaware Oaks Day. Our friend Roddy Valenti, of course, with Coach Rocks down there. So some local rooting interest for us down at Delaware. But it's also a big day out at Arlington. It's Road to the Millions preview day, previewing some of the stakes that will come up on Arlington Million Day. A lot of these participants will be showing up again on Million Day. And Mike Stidham, the trainer, has horses in 3 of the stakes out there at Arlington. So we reached out to him yesterday for an interview. He also has the likely, it will be the favorite, Supreme Aura in the Long Branch at Monmouth this afternoon. So we talked about that as well. So that's coming up next. Mike Stidham, stay tuned. Happy to be joined this morning by Michael Stidham. Has some entrance in the big stakes action out at Arlington Park on Saturday. Also a runner in a nice little 3-year-old stake over at Monmouth Park. Mike, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Yeah.
Want to talk to you a little bit about some of the stakes at Arlington first. You have some nice runners, certainly. Why don't we work backwards? Because in the Arlington Handicap, the morning line favorite, and as a buyer's guy, I see why, Synchrony, the 6-5 morning line favorite in the Arlington Handicap on Saturday afternoon. Mike, while we talk and look at the Munoz Memorial back on March 24th down at Fairgrounds, this was the second win in a stake during the Fairgrounds season with a triple-digit buyer. I think that's going to attract a lot of attention. As a buyer's guy myself, those triple digits stand out. So the Munoz was a nice effort, and again, we're watching the stretch run. Synchrony, the number 1 horse, wins by a chart margin of 1 3/4. The follow-up to that was a third in the Turf Classic. It was over a yielding course back on Derby weekend, a third behind Yoshida and Beach Patrol. What was your takeaway coming out of the third place last time at Churchill Downs, and how's he coming into the race on Saturday?
Well, first of all, the horse is doing well. He's trained well leading up to this race. But the Churchill race, everybody knows that day was a complete washout. Yeah. The turf course was a complete bog. And we were certainly concerned going into the race that we, whether or not our horse was going to handle that soft course. So the bottom line was Joe Bravo was on him that day, who had ridden him at the Fairgrounds, and he just said, Mike, he said early in the race, he just was struggling, was not getting a hold of the going, and so he said, I didn't rush him. I just kind of let him get his feet under him the best that he could, and that wound up having him last down the backside, and with a lot to do in the stretch, and even though he wasn't handling it, he made a big run late, a big wide sweeping move late, and still was third in a Grade 1 against some really good horses, with Yoshida winning the race. So we were pleased with the effort considering the conditions.
And again, going back to the 2 races down at the Fairgrounds in the winter season, a couple of nice triple-digit buyer wins in stakes races, and those were off a long layoff. He laid off from May until February. Why was the reason for the layoff?
Well, when I got the horse, he was in the middle of some end of the Cannonbone kind of remodeling, and he wasn't real comfortable, wasn't a happy horse. So we decided to just give him all the time he needed to get healthy, and it worked beautifully because when he came back from that layup, he was as good as he's ever been, and it showed in his race.
That's interesting. So he was still kind of maturing as a 4-year-old. He's 5 now, but again, those first 2 races down at the fairgrounds seems like he's matured and he's better now as a 5-year-old.
He really has developed nicely. He got over the minor physical issues that he had, and he's really matured and has really become a pretty good turf horse up to now.
As you say, finished behind Yoshida and Beach Patrol, a couple of nice ones at Churchill, but finished in front of Arklow and Mr. Misunderstood. Tizaslam down at the fairgrounds. Tizaslam was a nice winner up in the stake last Sunday at Woodbine, so finished in front of some nice runners at the fairgrounds. What are your expectations on Saturday afternoon for Synchrony?
We're looking for a good good trip. Hopefully, mid-pack, something like that, depending on the pace. And I think he's going to run a big one. I mean, he's training really well again, just like he was going into the fairgrounds races, and we couldn't be any more pleased with the way he's coming into it. So.
Let's move a little earlier on the card. The Stars and Stripes for 3-year-olds and up, going 1.5 miles, Grade 3, $100,000 up for grabs. And this is the Road to the Millions card, kind of previewing some of the big stakes they'll have on Arlington Million Day up there as well. But in the Stars and Stripes, you have Memory Bank. Last time out, ran second in an off-the-turf event up at Arlington. But we're going to go back and watch the allowance on May 27th, the last time that Memory Bank was on the grass. Memory Bank will be the 1 horse in here, gets up to win by a chart margin of 3/4 of a length. What are your thoughts coming in on Saturday for Memory Bank?
Well, certainly we're aware that this is a huge jump up in class for Memory Bank, but he's the type of horse that his best races are on the grass. We're getting him back on the grass tomorrow, and we actually think that the added distance is going to help him in all of his races. He's been the type of horse that looks like more distance in his favor. So, again, we're taking a big class hike, but horse is training well and doing well, so we're looking for a big effort.
Yeah, and as you say, the race on Saturday, 1.5 miles, and everything on the page is 1 mile or 1/16 or shorter. What do you look at as a trainer that kind of gives you confidence that this guy's going to like that added ground?
Just the way the horse is trained from the time that we started with him. I mean, he's always been pretty even, kind of a one-pace type horse that seems to gallop out strong in all of his work and in his races. So, again, it's more or less from a pedigree standpoint, just the way the horse is trained, that we have a pretty strong belief that the 1.5 miles is definitely going to be something that will help the horse.
And a little bit earlier on the card still, the Modesty for Fillies and Mares 3-year-olds and up, Grade 3 event. This one's 1 mile and 3/16 on the grass, and you have Haley Bell in there, runner for Godolphin. Last seen at Laurel at the end of April. We're going to watch that, the Dahlia. Haley Bell will be the number 5 horse here in this replay. A nice gutsy win by a nose as a 14-1 outsider. This horse, again, this race we're watching was at Laurel, has been training at Fair Hill. What was the decision-making process to make the move over from Maryland and try the Modesty in Chicago?
With Haley Bell, she's always been a very talented filly. She reeled off 3 wins at the fairgrounds as a 3-year-old, and we've always been very high on her. She's royally bred by Godolphin, and she's the type of filly that we ran her in a stake at the fairgrounds as a 4-year-old, and she just wasn't 100% going into the race, and she threw in a bad effort. So we've kind of figured out with her that spacing her races, giving her more time to come back to, her at her best is the way to go. And that's why we spaced from April to this race, giving her plenty of time, making sure she was back to 100%, and that's where she is going into the race.
Yeah, she still comes out of that Dahlia win we just saw and looks set up to run pretty well on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing to note about Halle Bell is that she, in the listed stake at Laurel that she won, she got up to beat Hawksmoor, who's a grade one filly, proven grade one filly. So we feel like this race going into a grade 3 with her is not necessarily a big jump up, and we think she's got the class to handle these type of horses.
I'll also toss out, just kind of looking up your stats and everything last night on Equibase and checking out your website. I'm guessing you're hoping for a weekend like last weekend, where you guys went 3 for 4 with some starters at Monmouth and Arlington.
Yeah, that would really be nice. I mean, we're always hoping that the horses go out and run their races when we when we enter them. But we feel like we're entered up pretty well for this weekend, and with some good racing luck, I think we have a good chance to have a big weekend.
Well, we hit on some Arlingtons. Let's hit on Monmouth now, because I want to talk about the Long Branch. It's a short field of 5, but when you and your staff opened up the PPs and saw the field, as I said earlier, I'm a buyer's guy. You have Supreme Aura in there. We're going to watch the Pegasus at Monmouth from June 17th. Supreme Aura is going to be the number 2 horse, get up for a nice neck victory, but does it with an 85 buyer. The last 3 buyer figures have been in the kind of low to mid 80s, and just have an edge on the rest of this field. As I say, when you guys opened up the PPs, you must have felt great about that Long Branch on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, we do like it. I think the horse that Linda Rice trains in there is one that could be a horse that's coming around to himself now, and he's probably, in my opinion, the horse to beat. But we're pleased with our horse. We thought it was a big effort. Last time he looked like he was hopelessly beaten at the 8th pole in his last start, and he was able to the current and win that race, and we're hoping that he's actually going to show us another dimension this time, because for him to be running in these kind of races, he's going to have to even step it up a little bit more than his last race, and that's what we're looking for. And
I know that nobody likes to plan too far ahead, but as you are at Monmouth with this horse, a win here, does he potentially look at the Haskell?
Well, look, the bottom line with Supreme Aura is he's been a horse that is taken a little time to develop. When we tried him in the Risen Star last year, or earlier this year, he certainly wasn't ready for that class jump. He wasn't ready for the distance, and now he's finally coming into form. For him to be a horse that we would consider for the Haskell, he's going to need to step up another notch or two from even his last win when he won that stake, be considered for a race like the Haskell. And certainly if Justify was going to run, that would be a whole other, ball game. So we're just looking for him to step it up another notch from his last race, and then we'll consider his next start after that.
And the nice thing is there are a lot of spots for 3-year-olds over the summer, so you have your options. And speaking of that, as I pulled up your recent entries and results and whatnot over at Equibase, I saw you had horses, as I say, Suffolk in there a few days of the summer, Presque Isle, Arlington, Monmouth. And that's the nice thing. I see you have horses training at Fair Hill, and that can lead you to a van ride down to Kentucky or over to Pennsylvania and New York, and as I say, Boston, Maryland, or whatnot. Just give me some nuts and bolts as a trainer. How do you go through the condition books and decide what are the best spots for your horses? Not just the stakes horses, but maidens and claimers as well. When you have that many options in the summertime, how do you parse out where they will go and what are the right spots?
Well, I agree with you that Fair Hill is a great place to train out of, because you have so many options. But from point, it's a lot more work from the barn. All the help that we have to ship constantly to race, and going through all the condition books is a lot of extra work. Not only finding the races, but then hoping that the races are going to fill, hoping that they're not rained off the turf, and as far as having to change plans the morning of a race if you think a race is going to be off the grass and you don't want to run. So it definitely makes our job a lot trickier. But I've got good assistants, and we all work together, and we try to pick the best spots for the horses.
And what, I know fairgrounds in the wintertime, but what do you personally consider your home base in the summertime?
Home base is definitely the fairgrounds in the winter. And then now, for the last 20 years prior to last year, we had called Arlington our home base. And basically we would stable everything at Arlington, or as many as they would allow us to. But since Illinois racing had kind of taken a dip in the last 5 or 6 years, we had to try to come up with some other ideas, just to be fair to the owners, and give them as many opportunities as possible for better purses. And that's why we've spent the last 2 summers at Fairhill. And thanks to David Ross, I trained for Mr. Ross, and he owns the barn at Fairhill, and we because of that, we're able to have a beautiful barn at Fairhill to train out of.
Yeah, everybody I talk to who's based there loves the place. I'd like to visit at some point. Yeah. And being that you're down there, we're based up here near Saratoga, and during the race meet we broadcast live from the backstretch. Any chance we'll see some Stidham runners up at Saratoga this summer?
Well, we definitely love to come up Saratoga to race, but we try to feel like we're coming up there with a chance to win, and if we don't think we're good enough, we're not going to ship. So it just depends. We've got over 42-year-olds in the barn, and they're developing and getting ready. And within the next 3 to 6 weeks, we're going to have a lot of 2-year-olds ready to run, and hopefully we're going to have a few that are good enough to try Saratoga. So we'll see what happens.
Saratoga's all about the 2-year. You got 1 or 2 you can whisper to us?
Well, yeah, I've got a couple for Godolphin that have been impressive. One of the fillies' names is Elsa for Godolphin. She's an Animal Kingdom filly, and another colt that we've liked is a colt that's stabled at Arlington named Homefield, and that's another Godolphin horse. So again, it's a little early to say anything definite, but those are some that are starting to show us a little talent.
All right, we'll be watching for them, and be watching to see if you make a trip up the Turnpike to Saratoga. Wish you good luck all summer long, but certainly wish you a lot of good luck this weekend at Arlington and in that Long Branch at Monmouth as well. And of course, appreciate you taking the time to visit.
Okay, well, I appreciate you having me on, Seth.
I always like to hear from the trainers, and again, appreciate you taking the time on what has to be a busy day for you. So again, good luck.
You bet. Thank you very much.
Michael Stidham with a nice set of runners in the stakes at Arlington. Again, it's Road to the Millions Day. Previews of some of the big stakes action he'll have on Arlington Million Day coming up a little bit later this summer. And he's also got the nice runner, and it just looks to Supreme Aura looks to have an edge on that field of 5 in the Long Branch at Monmouth on Saturday afternoon. So keep your eyes open. Elsa and Homefield, a couple of 2-year-olds we will be watching for. And I looked up the spelling. I typed it into Equibase. Elsa, like it sounds. E-L-S-A. Homefield, obviously, like it sounds as well. So a couple of 2-year-olds to keep our eyes on from the Michael Stidham stable. And good luck to him this afternoon, both at Arlington and Monmouth as well. Just before we go to a break, wanted to touch on some nice racing the past couple of days out of Prairie Meadows, leading into the Iowa Derby. They also had the Iowa Oaks, the Cornhusker, and just to take a look back on Thursday. They had some stakes races. The Saylorville, the winner there was Golden Mischief for Juddmonte and Brad Cox. Had been racing for Steve Asmussen, but the last couple of starts been going out for Brad Cox and gets it done. I think close to, just under $500,000 in the bank now for Golden Mischief. Nice little 4-year-old filly. Interested to see where she shows up next, and I'm interested because it's summertime and Saratoga's out there, and it's Brad Cox and Juddmonte. You would have to think that Saratoga is at least a possibility, but that they pick spots like the Prairie Meadows. The Saylorville says maybe they're looking for some alternative kind of locations. But with a win, we'll see if that one shows up in Saratoga. The Iowa Distaff for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up, $100,000, mile and a 16th. The winner in the Distaff was Dream Call. Mended ran second. Mended was the even money favorite, came in from Southern California, but it was Dream Call getting it done for Steve Asmussen on a nice Thursday night out of Prairie Meadows for Asmussen. This one had won the prep for this at Prairie Meadows coming out of an Oak Lawn season for Asmussen. So it was Dream Call over Mended. The disappointment was Genda's Agenda, and now the second kind of dud for that one. If you remember Genda's Agenda, lightly raced 4-year-old, came into the race Thursday night with only 6 career starts. 4 of those were wins, though. Won 4 of the first 5 starts of the career with the second place finish for Larry Jones. Had a break from March last year until February this year. First couple of starts this year seemed to continue on, but threw in a real dud in the Double Dog Dare at Keeneland before Thursday night, and then Thursday night in the Iowa Distaff ran 6th in the field of 7. So we'll see what's up next with Genda's Agenda as well. Also on Thursday night, the Iowa Oaks. Sassy Sienna went off as the 9-5 favorite coming out of the Kentucky Oaks. Ran 6th in there, but had won the fantasy prior for Brad Cox. Sassy Sienna disappoints a little bit, running 7th in the field of 9 as the 9-5 favorite. She's a Julie wins at 3-1 as the second choice for Steve Asmussen. So as I say, Asmussen having a nice night out at Prairie Meadows on Thursday night. Last night, some more stakes action at Prairie Meadows. The Iowa Sprint was won by Done Deal for Ian Wilkes. Done Deal, lightly raced 5-year-old. This was only the 7th career start, the 4th career win. Had a long layoff, obviously a problem for Done Deal. Laid off from September 2016 until May of this year. Won that comeback event, and now has put a stakes win on the resume as well. So Done Deal, interesting in the sprint division potentially for Ian Wilkes going forward, having won the Iowa Sprint. Apprehender and Wilbo, a couple of nice proven sprinters, running 2nd and 3rd in there. The Iowa Derby, this one's interesting because this is a 3-year-old, probably worth keeping our eyes on. We've talked to Brad Cox right here on the show about this horse before. High North won the Northern Spur towards the end of the Oak Lawn meet. If you have a horse that's good enough, you go to the Arkansas Derby. The Northern Spur is kind of the second stringers, and High North won that, went on to the Peter Pan, and disappointed in there a little bit. At 2-1, ran 4th behind Blended Citizen and Core Beliefs. But bounces back in the Iowa Derby last night. $250,000 up for grabs in that event, and Brad Cox, High North, gets it done. So now, 2 of the last 3 that you would say were for second stringers. Be interesting to see where Brad Cox and company go with this one, because there are plenty of opportunities for 3-year-olds in the summer to either shoot high or go for kind of a second tier, and we'll see where High North goes. And finally, in the Cornhusker, it was Remembering Rita, who had won a prior race at Prairie Meadows in prep for this. Dalmore and McCracken run 2nd and 3rd in the Cornhusker. All right, some nice action out in Iowa past couple of nights. Let's take a break. Speaking of nice action, very nice action at Belmont this afternoon. We'll take a break, come back with Andy Serling. A little bit later, Chris Sobocinski from Delaware Park, Delaware Oaks Day down there. We'll have all of that right after this. Stay tuned.
Dirty windows? Don't do it yourself. Call Clean Image, your window cleaning professionals, and enhance the look of your business or home without the worry. Clean Image pledges nothing less than 100% customer satisfaction. It's guaranteed. Homes, offices, bed and breakfast, vacation homes, and more. Clean Image has cleaned them all. Carpet and floor cleaning, pressure washing, and janitorial services are also available. Call today, 446-1397. That's 446-1397. Online at clean-image.net.
You know and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots. In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today.
I'm Brian Nadeau. Join me for my new show, Saturdays at the Spa, on OTB TV. I'll be live on the backstretch talking to some of the top trainers, jockeys, and racing personalities here in Saratoga. So join me right here at 10 a.m. each and every Saturday during the Saratoga Meet on the OTB TV network.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. As noted earlier, a nice Saturday of racing across the country, and the highlight, a couple of $1 million, and one of them, in fact, $1 million plus race down at Belmont Park. So I thought, who better to reach out to talk a little Belmont than our friend Andy Serling. Good morning, Andy.
Morning, Seth. How are you, man?
Very good. Happy to have you on board. Looking forward to seeing you right up here in a couple of weeks. But, boy, this is a great way to put an exclamation point on the spring-summer meet down at Belmont.
Yeah, it's turned to a really fun day, and obviously it came up a terrific card today. And, the turf races, the Suburban, really all the stakes, and even the return of Mendelssohn, the enigmatic Mendelssohn.
And I'm going to be curious to see, get an opinion on that. When I went one way, I'll see if you went the other. Before we talk the races, I just want to note that I saw the info came out that the radio show kicks back in, and I wanted to alert people to that because I'm a big fan. I head down to the Parting Glass most Thursday nights during the Saratoga meet to see the radio show down there at 8 o'clock on Thursdays, and you're going to kick off the night before the meet starts. Just promo the radio show coming up a little bit.
Yeah, looking forward to getting back. It'll be our 7th year, actually. It'll be Parting Glass, as you said, 8 o'clock every Thursday night. And, the usual fare. Try to, get as many interesting guests as we can. And just turn into a fun night. I mean, I think people have appreciated it. I know I have. And it's been a good time. We get good crowds down there, and obviously support from ESPN 104.5, the team as well, broadcasting it. And it's just a chance for, I think, people to come down after the races in the evening and get something to eat or drink and enjoy listening to different racing personalities, trainers, jockeys, owners, any people in the game. Still working on my opening lineup. I believe I'm going to have Sal Human on.
Nice.
Owner Sal Human, and obviously involved with Justify, Monomoy Girl, a lot of top horses. I got to bother Manny Franco. I got to try to get him to come on with me opening night. I got to go talk to him. I keep forgetting to do that, and work on the rest of it. But it should be fun.
Looking forward to it. And again, I'll tout it as I stop down most Thursday nights and slip in, get my hot turkey sandwich, sit back and watch the radio show. But I'll tout it because I know when you guys kind of formulated the idea, it was to bring a little bit of the track to downtown and the nightlife, and I think you've been successful because I will say, show up early. There's usually a good crowd there. You guys do a great job.
Thanks. Well, it's fun. It's really worked out to be a fun thing in Saratoga. I think people have really enjoyed it.
And again, the first edition, the night before the track opens that Thursday night, so keep that in mind. All right, let's jump in and talk a little Belmont for this afternoon. Let's kind of kick off with the highlight and work our way back a little bit. Belmont Derby Invitational, Grade 1 event, $1.2 million up for grabs. And Andy, while we talk, going to pull up the Pennine Ridge which was just a freakish performance. I think everybody kind of looked at that, and the day after were still scratching their heads. Catholic Boy goes out. Catholic Boy's going to be the number 3 horse. Sets some very legitimate fractions, and kind of in the stretch looks like, oh, Catholic Boy's all done. Analyze It, the number 4 horse, goes by as the 1-5 favorite. You think Analyze This has this in his back pocket. But then as they get close to the wire, things switch. Javier Castellano on Catholic Boy even said after the race, I was pretty sure I was racing for second place money. But as we see here, it's going to kind of come out and then go by late. So Catholic Boy wins. I put Analyze on top still in the Belmont Derby. This may be a sign that the distance is going to be a problem, but I'm looking at this race, the Pennine Ridge, as a little bit of an aberration. So I still have Analyze It on top, Catholic Boy second. I put Hunting Horn third. What are your thoughts on the Belmont Derby?
Well, when you say aberration, you're making an assumption that Analyze It didn't run well. Just because he lost doesn't mean he didn't run well. I don't think he ran the race we expected him to run. I don't think it was the result we expected. But it doesn't mean that Analyze It ran a bad race. And I do wonder a little bit if he's coming off a 2-month layoff in that race, if maybe he needed the race a little bit, and that's one of the reasons he didn't run as well. Obviously, the distance is a real question. But I also think it's going to be a different scenario in this race than it was last time, where you're going to see a more aggressive ride and Analyze It. And he's going to be the one they have to catch. And I'm not giving up on a horse who's been nothing short of brilliant in his first 3 starts. And I think Analyze It, like you, turns the tables today. But I do think that Hunting Horn is a very serious threat. Aidan O'Brien does not have a lot of success in the U.S. with horses outside of the Breeders' Cup races, but he has won this race before, and Hunting Horn is coming in this race very, very strongly. And I think that the firm going is going to help him, and I think he's a major player. So I'm sort of Hunting Horn and Analyze It as the main 2 in here. I respect the other European. I respect Hawkish, but he has to get the 1.25 mile and improve in doing so, and I don't know if he's going to do that.
And we haven't mentioned 2 horses I left out of my mix, but I think Murad, I've liked him all year long. And my boy Jack getting back to the turf, I think, could be interesting. I think this race is loaded.
I think if it's a sept affected, either one of those has a chance to get a piece of it.
Yeah, it's, again, nice addition of the Belmont Derby. A little bit earlier, the girls go in the Belmont Oaks Invitational, Grade 1 worth $1 million. And going to pull up here the Wonder again. We're going to watch La Signier, the number 9 horse, wins significant form. The number 5 runs second, and Mighty Scarlet, the number 2, will run third. They're all back. I went with Capla Temptress, and I've said probably the last couple of years, used to be you always went to the Europeans. Even their second, third, fourth stringers could come here and win. I think that's changed in the last 2 or 3 years. But I think Capla Temptress is a nice one. I thought the seasonal debut was a pretty good effort. I'm going to go in that direction, over significant form, over La Signier in the second and third spots. But what are your thoughts on the Oaks?
Yeah, I mean, I think that significant form in the similar situation with Analyze. I think they'll be more aggressive today. She's going to be the hunted, and La Signier will be the hunter. And I think they're the main 2 horses in here. I believe they're the 2 horses to beat. I'm not overly impressed with the Europeans. I mean, Athena doesn't. Actually, did run okay, but that was just 6 days ago. But overall, and Aidan O'Brien had no success whatsoever with fillies coming over. That only found his only winner in the last 5 years, and that was in the Breeders' Cup race. As far as Capla Temptress, I put her forth. I do think she has some talent. I don't know her last race, which was sort of the French Guineas, but at Longchamp, I don't know how strong that field was overall. And watching her run at the end, she seemed to flatten out a bit, and I question whether or not she really wants 1.25 miles. And there's nothing about her American races that suggests she's necessarily better than these horses. I don't think she's totally impossible, but I think 1.25 miles is really a question. I think one of the questions is Toinette. I mean, I have no problem with significant form and La Signier. Both very, very good horses. But Toinette's a good horse, too. She was a beneficiary of good circumstance when both Rushing Fall and Daddy's Legend, who finished second and third, went after each other very hard around the far turn. And she was able to take advantage of that, and that made her look better than she is. Doesn't mean she's not talented. The question of the 1.25 miles, well, she's already outrunning her pedigree to begin with, so perhaps 1.25 miles won't be a problem for her.
And again, another race where we haven't mentioned some interesting performers. The Way I Am, I thought, was kind of, into the Gulfstream meet, the leader in this subdivision of 3-year-old fillies on the turf for Graham Motion. I thought her try in the Penn Oaks was pretty good. A nice second-place finish there behind Got Stormy. I didn't use her in the mix. Mighty Scarlet I have down in the 4th spot, lightly raced for Chad Brown. So like the boys' version, I think this one is kind of loaded, where you can make arguments for and against, probably 5 or 6 or 7 in here.
When a leader of divisions is emerging from turf races at Gulfstream, I think you need to use a different word.
Well, it was early in the
season. It's not
season.
really turf, and it's not really significant racing during the year.
It was still.
But besides that, I think it's important going forward.
All right, let's move on to the Dwyer, because again, I'm interested to get an opinion from you on Mendelssohn. I left Mendelssohn out, and we're going to watch the UA.
That's a clever decision because he might be the best horse.
And we'll see how
Second
it works.
rain, big crowd.
We'll see how it works out. But we'll watch the UAE Derby here, and clearly looks spectacular here. But beats Rhea. Rhea, we didn't get the chance to see her a couple of nights ago at Prairie Meadows, scratched out of that one. But the Derby, I get all the excuses that can be made. I have to see him come over here and really do it. And so we'll get a better barometer today. I tilted towards Noble Indy. I'm not buying into the Derby and the Belmont as being good indicators. I'm looking a little earlier this year. Maybe it was just overmatched in those races and better fit. I'm looking for a rebound. I have Rugby Man in the second spot, and then I use 7 Trumpets in the third spot. As I say, I bypass Mendelssohn, but you might be right. Might run away and hide from this field.
Saratoga is a long meet for to have opinions like that. Seth. You might want to really. Good thing Shepard didn't have a horse in there, right? Just slip him in there somewhere in the slot as well. I think you're being ridiculous about Mendelssohn, so completely leave him out, to be honest. I picked him second, but I think he's way the horse to beat in here. Yeah, he was helped by a bias in Dubai, but he still ran a giant race. And just because horses, are with a bias doesn't mean they didn't run well. He's got a gigantic pedigree.
But also look who he beat. He beats Rhea and Re-Ride. So I'm not sure. He was supposed to run away and hide from those. Yeah,
he won by 20 lengths.
But he's supposed to hide from those if he's any good. And then he came into we'll see this afternoon.
Right. That's like saying Rachel Alexander isn't much because she beat a bunch of bums when she won by 20 in Kentucky Oaks. I'm on the radio, and people in my office, idiots I work with, think they want to get Tony, you can get on the show if you want. I'm happy to have you on. Unbelievable. Anyway, where were we? I completely disagree with you, Seth.
Okay.
I think you're just wrong. I don't see the horse won by 20 and ran a giant figure. You're acting as though he got like an 81 buyer and won by 2.
Yeah, no, I as I say, I get the arguments for. I am taking the stand against, and
okay.
we will see in a few hours which
Paul
way it goes.
Works with me, agrees with you. He's not a Mendelssohn fan either. I picked Graham Rugby, Graham horse. I like that horse. I think he's improving. I think he'll benefit from getting blinkers, and I think there's a real chance that he does better. But I think you're right about Noble Indy. His race was terrific in Louisiana, and he can absolutely win if he runs that race. I'm not handing this race to Mendelssohn, but I don't think he's a horse that should be dismissed. That's more my point. And I also think that you have to respect Frisian Fire. He's got a trainer who's winning with every horse he runs, and he's a 7 furlong to a mile one-turn horse. He did win our Grade 1 Frisette last year on this track over Good Magic. So I don't think he should be dismissed either.
And the cutback, I think, will help Frisian Fire, too.
Yeah, he's a 7 furlong to a mile horse whose connections were foolishly running in races he didn't belong in. Now, I think the question with him and Noble Indy is whether or not they're going to feel any ill after effects of running in the wrong races for too long.
All right, let's just get some quick opinions on the Suburban and the Sprint. The Suburban, I liked Opportunity in that last race, the Brooklyn. I put Opportunity on top, but I heard you talking yesterday, and you thought Tappert was kind of interesting. So do I. I put that one right underneath, and I could see a rebound off of that seasonal debut and getting back to what we saw in the Belmont last year from Tappert. So, again, I have Opportunity over Tappert in the Suburban. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, listen, I respect Opportunity. I picked Tappert. I thought his return race was good. I've never been his biggest fan. I feel like if he's going to run a big race, today is the day he's going to run it. It's sort of like I feel like this is a pivotal race for him. He's got the prep into him. He was a little fresh in that race and probably closer to a fast pace he wants to be. Listen, I respect both of Bob Baffert's horses. Dr. Door's very good, but Dr. Door's got to get a mile and a quarter while stalking Diversify, put that one away, and hold off the closers. It may not be easy, but I think at this point to sort of dismiss Bob Baffert horses in these kind of races is probably a mistake. So I picked Dr. Door second, Opportunity third. I think, horses like Take Your Guns and to a lesser extent War Story are sort of fringe players, but I'm going to live and die with 2 Bafferts and Tappert.
And the Belmont Sprint Championship, Grade 2, $350,000, 7 furlongs. I may be taking a bad stand in this race as well, as I put Limousine Liberal down in the 4th spot, but this is one of those where I really like a horse, and I've never been a fan of Limousine Liberal. I really like Whitmore, so I use that one on top. And as I say, I've never been a fan of Limousine Liberal, so I put that one in the 4th spot. I have Whitmore over Favorable Outcome, over Shaft of Light with Limousine Liberal in the 4th spot. Your thoughts on the sprint?
Yeah, I think you're dismissing horses that are the horses to beat in race. I think Limousine Liberal is the horse to beat. Taking one last chance that Favorable Outcome is going to finally live up to his expectations, which he is really disappointed in. But I thought his last race was very good. Now, it was a wet track, but he's not a horse that's loved a wet track in the past. But I thought in chasing Recruiting Ready, who was lone speed that day, and doing a valiant job and almost running him down, was an extremely good performance. And if he can run back to that, I think he can win. Clearly, to me, Limousine Liberal and Whitmore are the 2 horses in this race. Their merits are fairly obvious. I'll try to beat them with Favorable Outcome, but there's no pick 5, pick 4, any tickets I would make that wouldn't obviously include all 3 of those horses.
Sounds good. Andy, as always, appreciate the visit. We'll be watching. What are the times for the Fox MSG show today?
Well, today we're on from 6 to 7. NBC is on from 4:30 to 6. They're doing the first 3 races. Of the Stars and Stripes races, and we're going to be on for the last 2. So we'll be on 6 and 7 doing the Suburban and the Belmont, and then it's on to Saratoga. It's my last MSG show until the Belmont Park Live, until we head up to Saratoga, where we're on every day, 4 to 6:30, almost every single day.
Sounds good. Looking forward to the visit up here, obviously, because that means the start of the meet. And again, radio show will kick off that Thursday night before opening day here at Saratoga.
I think you and I are going to see each other some night in Saratoga before that. What do you think the chances of that
are? Yeah, it's probably likely.
I think that's a real possibility. We can further our discussion on Mendelssohn. I look forward to that.
Well, and by then we'll know who's right and who's wrong.
And I'll invite some people from the office. They can come in and join in too, since we sort of have a group conversation today.
All right. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Seth.
Andy, always appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Take it easy. Andy Serling from the New York Racing Association with Belmont, putting on a great card this afternoon. Great card also at Delaware Park. We'll talk next with Chris Sobocinski from Delaware. Stay tuned.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week, OTB TV is the Capital Region's choice for the most comprehensive and informative coverage of thoroughbred and harness racing. OTB TV is the only area network delivering a steady viewership, reaching more than 540,000 households throughout the broadcast day and into the evening. Capital OTB's digital presence also plays a tremendous part in getting your message in front of potential customers. With more and more wagering moving to online, CapitalOTB.com can put your message in front of thousands of potential customers 24 hours a day. And with the addition of our new mobile app, new customers will see your message on all their digital devices. To see how affordably you can reach thousands of new customers, contact Capital OTB's Sales and Marketing Department today.
You're unbelievable. Are your favorite tracks in Florida, but you're in upstate New York? With Capital OTB, Tampa Bay Downs and Gulfstream Park are closer than you think. With more than 60 easy bet and branch locations throughout the region, you're just a short drive from all the top tracks across the country and around the world. For a complete list of all easy bet and branch locations, visit CapitalOTB.com.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Welcome back. As promised before the break, joined now by Chris Sobocinski from Delaware Park. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Seth. Thank you for having me this morning.
Happy to have you. Talk about the big day at Delaware Park with the Delaware Oaks, the R.G. Dick Memorial, a couple other stakes races as well. We'll get some ideas there. But first, just give us a little update. What's your weather look like for Saturday afternoon?
Oh, man, we have a picture-perfect day for horse racing. There's just some light, fluffy clouds in the sky. The temperature's probably in the mid to low 80s. and it's just sunny, and it's just an absolutely gorgeous day.
And a gorgeous track as well. We did a little remote from Woodbine last weekend for the Queen's Plate, and some of the OTB people were in the car on the drive up, and we were talking about different tracks we visited, and everybody agreed Delaware Park, just absolutely scenic and one of the prettiest paddocks in all of horse racing.
Oh, yes. I think that is one thing that's unanimous in horse racing, I think, and it's very few. It doesn't happen very often when you get everyone to agree on something, but when they do, it's a good thing. And our paddock and the atmosphere at Delaware Park is one of a kind.
Yeah, absolutely. And nice, easy drive for those of us up here in the Capital District. If folks want to make it down, highly recommended. But a great afternoon this afternoon. Let's jump into some of that. The R.G. Dick Memorial Grade 3 event, couple $100,000 up for grabs, a mile and 3/8 on the turf. Typically, we'll get some performers coming out of this race showing up at Saratoga later, so I would advise people to pay attention, as it were. I think it's a nice field. Palinodi comes in for Christophe Clement, Esquisse for Graham Motion. Both seem to have some ability. Michael Dickinson brings in Giovanna Blues. But I pulled up a replay from May 26th. We're going to watch the Kirtana down at Churchill Downs, and the winner of that event will be Creative Thinking. That was the stakes debut for Creative Thinking. The Tommy Proctor runner runs away and wins by 5 lengths. Going to bring in the jockey that was on board that day, the kind of up-and-coming Adam Beskica. I think Creative Thinking looks very good this afternoon for Tommy Proctor and Beskica. What are your thoughts in the R.G. Dick Memorial?
I definitely agree with you about Creative Thinking. The one upside that she has over some of these other horses, especially Palinodi, is that she wins. Yeah. Palinodi, while she's run very well, she's only had that one career win, and I think that was back in 2016 in France. So that's my one concern with Palinodi. Other than that, she looks like a sensational filly, and that last race in the Sheepshed Bay was a spectacular performance, it appears. But I definitely agree with Creative Thinking. Tommy Proctor is always dangerous, and here at Delaware Park, he's been having a really good, solid meet with 18 wins or 18 starts, and he's hit the board 12 times. So I definitely agree with Creative Thinking. And Graham Motion, you always got to throw Graham Motion with the Robert G. Dick Memorial. We've had 21 renewals of the Robert G. Dick, and Graham's won 8 of them, dating all the way back to 1998, and he's won the last 2. So he always finds a way to get his. He always has horses in the race, and more often than not, he always finds a way to get them someplace close to the win at the finish line, and more often than not, they do win.
And he's firing a pretty good percentage at the Delaware Park meet overall as well. All right, let's move on to the Delaware Oaks. Local interest for those of us up here in the Albany area, because our buddy Rowdy Valenti has Coach Rocks in, and we easily root for this one in each and every start. The nice winner of the Gulfstream Park Oaks. Nice second place finish in the Black Eyed Susan. We're going to take a look at that race. Coach Rocks was beaten by the number 4 Red Ruby. Coach Rocks is going to be the number 3 in here. They run 1-2. They come back both on Saturday afternoon in the Delaware Oaks. But I think most shopping for Todd Pletcher is interesting. Blue Strike, also interesting. Prospective Lady. They all come in out of a 1-2-3 finish in the Lighthearted at Delaware. Geo Game for Mark Cassie, a nice third-place finish last time in the Acorn behind Monomoy Girl. Take Charge Delilah, another Pletcher runner. Boy, this race is fun and loaded. As I say, locally and sentimentally, we got to root for Coach Rocks. But what are your thoughts on the Delaware Oaks?
Well, locally and sentimentally, I'm going to root for Maya Malibu and also Prospective Lady, because they're the local connections here. Prospective Lady ran 3rd in the Lighthearted, and she put together a spectacular effort. She was trained by Gerald Bennett. She was facing a probably the toughest competition she's probably ever faced in that Lighthearted race, and she really responded well. And Maya Malibu, I think, might be a sneaky one from Graham Motion. Maya Malibu broke her maiden here last year at Delaware Park, and then he put her right into the Grade 1 Spinway where she ran well, and then followed up with the Frizette. I got a funny feeling that Motion felt like that horse was a nice horse back then, and he's getting her back to where he thinks she'll be the most effective.
Yeah, and she should be a nice price, 8-1 on the morning line, and I think that'll hold up with maybe some horses that are a little more proven this year. But it looks like a lot of fun. Rajiv Murad going down to ride Coach Rocks for our friend Roddy Valente. A nice field in the Delaware Oaks. Should also mention next week, Delaware Oaks this week. Next week, the Delaware Handicap.
Yes, we're pretty excited about the Delaware Handicap. We have a solid nomination list, and if we get two or three of those really nice horses, it's going to be a really nice race, and we're hoping we're going to get some of those horses. The Delaware Handicap has always been a phenomenal race. Last year, Songbird won it for Rick Porter and Fox Hill Farms, so that was a nice local victory. And through the years, some of the best fillies and mares in the country have gone through the gate for the Delaware Handicap, and it's always been a pretty exciting race.
And let's talk a little bit about the human connections. We've kind of hinted at it already, talking about some of the trainers, but I pulled up the stats from Equibase last night on the jockeys and trainers side, and always interesting. She was the leader a couple of years ago, I think second last year. Carol Cedinho, the female jockey, on top of the current standings at Delaware Park. Dan Santino, who folks who play Tampa in the wintertime are familiar with, sits third currently. But there's some familiar names as you go down the list. Mario Pino has had a number of mounts there. Edgar Prado has made a couple of ventures, a few ventures over to Delaware Park this meet. Trevor McCarthy on the trainer's side. Battle up top between Jamie Ness and Scott Lake. Certainly familiar names there. But more familiar names as you go down the list. We've already mentioned Graham Motion, Gerald Bennett for the folks who watch Tampa in the wintertime, Tommy Proctor we've mentioned. David Jacobson has popped down from New York about a dozen times, and Arnaud Delacour as well. So really good contingent of both jockeys and trainers at this year's meet.
Exactly. We put together some really fun race, and I do the morning line odds here at Delaware Park. And sometimes the job of doing the morning line odds is really hard because you're getting some of these big name trainers and big name jockeys all coming down for the same race, and you just don't know who they're going to bet on that day. And it's really fun. We put together some really fun races with some of our good, solid local connections, and we get a lot of nice ship-ins from New York and New Jersey. And also being so close to Fair Hill, we get a nice mix from them as well. And it creates interesting racing, and it makes it fun. And it's day in and day out. It's a fun track to follow.
And as I say, for those of us up here in the Saratoga area, this weekend and next weekend we'll certainly produce some runners that will show up there, so worth paying attention to and jumping in and playing as well. Chris, as always, appreciate the visit. Wish you and everybody down at Delaware lots of good luck this afternoon and going forward with the meet.
Thank you, Seth. We will thank you, and I'm looking forward to coming back on soon.
We're looking forward to having you, talking some more Delaware, because as I say, beautiful track and some great racing there as well. Chris, thanks a lot.
You're welcome, Seth. Thank you.
Chris Sobocinski from Delaware Park. Again, a great card there. We talked about two of the stakes, the R.G. Dick Memorial and the Delaware Oaks, but there are a couple of other nice stakes on the card as well. And again, it's going to be fun to root for our friend Roddy Valente and Coach Rocks in the Delaware Oaks this afternoon. Also, thanks to Andy Serling. Now we got to see what Mendelssohn does this afternoon. Who's going to be right on the Mendelssohn thing? I will readily admit I can be 180 degrees on that. I was not convinced what we saw in the Derby was not what this horse will offer up in American Dirt Star. We'll see. We'll see. Again, that's the great thing about horse racing. You have an opinion, and they load them in the gate. A minute and a half later, you know whether you were right or wrong. But thanks to Andy for joining us. And top of the show, excuse me, Michael Stidham. Interview we taped yesterday. He has some horses in those nice stakes out at Arlington, and the likely favorite, Supreme Aura, in the Long Branch today at Monmouth as well. Nice racing across the country, all of which you can tune into right here on the network, and all of which, or much of which, I'll be looking at this afternoon on OTB Live. That'll kick off in a couple hours. Once again, some reminders coming up Thursday. We are up the Northway at Saratoga Harness, live from the harness track trackside. And we'll also have a $100 bankroll to play during the afternoon. Learn more about how you can get your chance to participate by going to capitalotb.com. Also, the Road to Vegas contest continues a week from today. Go to the website for more information on how you can participate in this month's version of the handicapping contest. Kicking off on Wednesday the 18th, Del Mar starts Friday the 20th, Saratoga has their opening day. And again, the night before, Andy Serling in his radio show down at the Parting Glass. I highly recommend it. It's always a lot of fun. Good crowd. He gets great guests, does a great job. Thursday the 19th, that radio show will kick off down at the Parting Glass. Our programming kicks off from the Saratoga backstretch a week from yesterday, Friday the 13th. Mark that on your calendar. It's always a lot of fun to be live up there on the backstretch at Saratoga. You can keep up with all the promos and events at capitalotb.com. I should mention, Bet 50, Get 50 continues, but not all month. There will be a Bet 100, Get 100 that kicks off on the 16th. And I'm not letting anything out of the bag. It's right on our event sheet that we hand out down here at the Clubhouse Racebook, that it kicks up to Bet 100, Get 100. So, you know, you may, if you wait a week and a day, you get the extra juice there, and that Bet 100, Get 100 continues then through the end of the month. You're going to get something no matter when you sign up now or if you wait. But right now it's a Bet 50, Get 50, and as I say, about 8 days out, goes to Bet 100, Get 100 on the 16th. Just keep that in mind. As I say, you're going to get some dough either way if you sign up for a brand new account. But information on all that, again, at capitalotb.com. All right, I'm going to wrap things up for this edition of Racing Across America. Again, a couple hours down the road, we'll be back with OTB Live for Saturday afternoon and back in here tomorrow morning for more Racing Across America Sunday at 10 a.m. So wrapping things up. Enjoy the racing this afternoon. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.